clever pun.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Malik.
Malive, actually, because we are
nice
streaming right now on our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/DKVine. Now, when I say right now, obviously, if you are listening to this after the fact on Spotify or Apple Podcast or your preferred podcasting service or YouTube or SoundCloud, well, it's not live, is it? I'm a liar. I'm
no.
a filthy, silver-tongued snake. But this is live if you're listening to it right now at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, at 12 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. BST on our Twitch channel. Hello, everyone. Hello. I was initially on the fence about doing a separate standalone Playtonic episode for our Stinky Ape Summer game announcement live episodes. You know, we did one back when it was still E3 back in 2019. The last time we had a new announced in-house Playtonic game. We did a separate Playtonic episode because we were incredibly jazzed about Impossible Lair, and Playtonic is the third pillar of the DKU. I mean, since Playtonic has formed, that has kind of been DK Vine's stance. It's Donkey Kong and anything related to the stuff that stayed with Nintendo from the buyout, Rare, and then the Splinter studio, Playtonic. And, of course, Playtonic is not guaranteed to have an announcement every June, like Nintendo and Xbox are. Not to say that Nintendo and Xbox always have DKU-related announcements, but with Playtonic, it's kind of a sure thing, and they will only announce something when they're ready to announce something. So it's been half a decade with a worldwide pandemic thrown near the front of all of that. So I was like, I want to do a Playtonic episode, but I was hoping, one, that Nintendo would get off their ass and announce when their direct is, so I have some direction on that front. I mean, we know it's this month. That's far better than we usually get, but they're still kind of just being all smug and cute about it. They're, you don't want to announce.
It's not working. It's not cute.
It's not cute. It's not a cute look. But I'm at least grateful that we know it's going to be within the next 17 days or so. It's, how many days are in June? Is it 30 or 31? I can never remember.
30 days in September, April, June, and November.
It's 30.
So June.
Yeah. So June is 30. Yeah. So 17 days to go, Nintendo. Come on now. But I was like, we might have to do Nintendo first. Wasn't the case. And then Playtonic announced that they were going to do a Q&A. I didn't know what that would entail. They just said a Q&A coming Tuesday. And I was like, well, that's perfect, because we will get new information on Yooka-Replaylee, and then we can do another conversation about it beyond the one we did for our kickoff episode for Stinky Ape Summer, where Cameron, Dustin, and I talked about Yooka-Replaylee a fair bit. Probably like half that kickoff episode was dedicated to Yooka-Replaylee. But the Nintendo Direct's still not announced, and then the Q&A, which seems to be a YouTube video, was delayed because it seems like they had technical difficulties, or it wasn't actually recording or something when they did it. So,
more like Yooka-Replaylee, am I right?
Yeah, Gothic Teddy Bear made that joke. I think a few people made that joke, actually.
Oh, never mind.
No, but if you thought of it yourself, it's still good.
I think I did, and I think that's enough.
It doesn't matter who invents the wheel. If you thought of it, that's pretty good.
Yeah, great minds think alike.
Yeah, pretty good spinny little thing you can put on your wagon there. So I thought, we're going to have the Q&A, but the Q&A, they had to re-record it, and it's going to be broadcast or streamed or put on their YouTube channel tomorrow, the day after I already scheduled this with Malik, Friday, June 14th. So I was like, look, if I'm honest, Yooka-Replaylee is the biggest DKU game project that DK Vine has had to discuss since 2019, since the autumn of Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and everything that entailed, like everything since then has been updates and DLC and nothing really in the way of new. And yes, this is an enhanced remaster. Trying to think of the term to parse it out as, because it's not exactly a remake, I don't think. But anyway, I realize this isn't a 100% new game, but it's as new as we've gotten since 2019. And I'm excited about it. And I want to talk about it. And if I'm honest, I'm going to be talking about it quite a bit in the months ahead here on the Kongversation. So what does it hurt, even if we know we're getting more information tomorrow, to do a live episode today? Because also I wanted to get your perspective, Malik. I thought, who would be fun to discuss this game with? The cartoon gamer, Malik. And luckily you were available to do it. And so I was like, all right, Thursday it is. So yeah, I just needed to bring a different co-host and I can repeat my same talking points, but it'll feel fresh.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, or something like that.
It's just a fresh coat of paint, just like Yooka-Replaylee. It's all it needs. But as I said, we are live on Twitch right now, and we will be back for another live conversation following the Nintendo Direct, TBD. So we're not done yet. And once again, I am also planning a special callsack episode after the Nintendo Direct. That one won't be live, but we will take all of our listener calls from the hotline that we've accrued since Yooka-Replaylee was announced through the Xbox Showcase, through the Nintendo Direct. So that will be coming. I've also got more episodes in the work, regular episodes of the Kongversation. We're going to have one this week. I had to get pushed back a little bit. So I'm going to be rejiggering the schedule a little bit, but yeah, we've got one more live episode to go. And hello to Martrose in our live stream. We'll be checking in with the live stream as we go. But before we do that, Malik, I wanted to remind everybody it is Stinky Ape Summer, and we have Stinky Ape Summer merchandise on our merchandise store, dkvine.com/merchandise. We're on TeePublic. I have a feeling TeePublic is going to be running a sale for Father's Day in the next couple of days, like through the weekend. They usually do, because it's all made up. So they're going to be running a Father's Day sale, which means you can get the Stinky Ape Summer shirts or a DK Vine hat on sale. So yeah, we got baseball caps now, Malik. Are you excited?
Yes, I am. I actually like baseball caps.
Oh yeah, see, I'm not a hat person. I've just never been a hat guy, and I think it's because my hair is bouncy, and so a hat never sits right on my head.
That's funny, because when I grow my hair out, it's pretty. My hair is pretty bouncy too, but it's very hard to manage. So I like cutting it. I just got a haircut not too long ago, and I'm like, yes, I can wear hats again, because I can't wear hats when my afro gets a little too big. Yeah,
yeah. For me, I've got like thick, like strands that it gets curly when it gets long, and the only thing is I never give myself the time to get a haircut. So
well, it took me 6 months before I did mine. So
yeah,
you're among friends.
For me, I'm like the absent-minded professor, but for Donkey Kong journalism, because I'm always just working for DK Vine, like behind the scenes. I'm like, ooh, got an idea for video. Okay, let me start researching it. Let me start drafting it. Let me start editing it. And it's like feeding myself, getting haircuts. The only thing I do on the regular is shower, because I hate feeling unclean. But besides that, I'm just like devoted to the cause, to my craft, and that is.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
how do you read my mind?
You're even more prodigious than I am, Malik. You are always doing videos. You're always making content, not just for your own channel, but for Did You Know Gaming, and it's just You're busy. You got fingers in every pie.
Yes, I do. I have fingers.
Yeah, I try to keep up with the prosthetic golfing ones, and it's just hard. I
was going to say prosthetic pie fingers. That'd be nice.
So that's what Mr. Pants wears because of his partner, Mrs. Pie.
Oh, Lord.
Mr. Pants lore for you there, Malik. You're welcome.
Oh, I already knew.
I know you know, but I also want to explain to those who might not know the deep Mr. Pants lore, of which there is a surprising amount of Mr. Pants lore. Like, you think right? The area of the DKU, of the shared rare universe, where people think, oh, well, that's just a silly stick figure man. And it's like, no, actually, there's volumes of material about this guy and what he gets up to, and his family and coworkers and the weirdos who live in his county. I
love it.
I love it so much. That'll be a future video. It's Mr. Pants, the Pantsland DKU lore tour. But let's talk about Playtonic. Now, as I said, we're still waiting on that Q&A, but I don't think we need it. I don't think we really need it, because we're going to be discussing Yooka-Replaylee from now until it's out, past the time it's out, and then we'll do anniversary episodes. But I'm eager to talk about it. Like, this is the first game I've really had to get excited about that's new in half a decade. And I know a lot of you are like, well, that's your own damn fault, Hyle. You could play other games. Well, like, people don't get it, right? They think I'm some sort of, like, self-flagellating monk who like is just purposely depriving himself because he doesn't realize there are other studios who make other games. There are other good games outside of this limiting bubble I have put myself in. And I understand. I do. The thing that people don't seem to realize is that when I'm not doing DK Vine stuff, DK Vine is my job. When I'm not doing DK Vine stuff, I want to just detach from video games entirely. And so it's very hard for me to then pick something else up. It was like, oh, I've been writing, talking, editing, producing video game content, videos, podcasts, articles, news stories all week. What do I want to do to blow off steam? I don't know, play a video game? No, I don't. I want to stay away from, and I love what I do. I absolutely love this. This is like the most bizarre dream gig you can imagine. Doesn't make a lot of money, but I'm having a good time. But I need a break, and video games do not provide that release for me. So it is just a matter of I don't have time to play other games. And so when I get a new game under the purview of DK Vine, I'm giddy. Especially when it's not just a cameo game, when it's not just Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong appearing in some Mario game where he's kicking a ball around, or, you know, like, all due respect to those games, some of them are great, some of them are mediocre, but it is hard to just get excited about, oh, it's a Mario game, but I will get 5% Donkey Kong content. You know, it's one thing to get those, and then it's another to get an entire game tailor-made to your preferences and likes and desires. And I don't know if other fandoms really appreciate it. Obviously some do, right? Like there are some fandoms that are starving out there, but the real mainstream ones like Mario, Pokemon, even Zelda, you know, like they're always eating pretty well. Kirby, like you're never wanting for a Kirby game. Sonic is definitely, and I know, like, I can say that, and then somebody like Josh Wallen will come in with the insight, well, yeah, Sonic is getting new games, but it's not all, you know, wine and roses. We're always arguing with each other and about what our preferred take on Sonic, very much a buyout era Donkey Kong fandom problem. So, this is a long-winded, rambling way for me to say, I'm pumped about Yooka-Replaylee. I don't care if it is just an enhanced remaster of a game that came out 7 years ago. This is tickling my bones in a very pleasant way. And I know some people are still on the fence about this. They're swaying on the planker, and they're saying, do we really need an update for a game that's only 7 years old? Why couldn't Playtonic, if they're working on it, and they are, why couldn't they show off Yooka-Replaylee with this to give us a little bit more juice to go off of? And, this is not a point I want to dismiss. And maybe I was a little bit dismissive of it on our kickoff episode because of the enthusiasm that was still heavy in the air after the Yooka-Replaylee announcement. Like, we gave lip service to this fear and this consternation among some people out there in the, you want to call it Rare fandom, you want to call it Playtonic fandom, you want to call it DKU fandom, however you want to parse it out and separate yourself in these lines, that's fine. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, Malik, because I did kind of do some snooping on your social media, and you seem pretty pumped about this.
Yeah, I would say so, because, like everybody else, I was also hoping for Yooka-Replaylee, or as I like to call it, Yooka-Tuka. Everybody thinks I'm stupid for calling it that, but I think that's just a stupid enough name that I would like to see it, so I call it Yooka-Tuka.
Yooka-Tuka, yeah.
Yeah, none of these names are good for storefront discoverability, I should say, but...
No, but I admire whenever they're committed to a bit, even if it's to their own detriment. There's something very noble about it in my mind. It's like, oh, this hasn't been focus tested a million times. You're just doing it. Awesome.
Yeah, just do it. Just see what happens. But yeah.
Respect in the sanitized era of corporate hand-wringing. Just go for it. Yeah,
it's like they're not scared of anything. I like that. They're fearless. Whatever comes their way, it's their own fault. And then they understand that.
Yes. Live a little. You only go around once in this lifetime.
But yeah, I was excited to see Yooka-Replaylee more so than I thought I might have. If you told me that Playtonic was making a remake of Yooka-Replaylee before they announced it themselves, I guess I would be a little more confused than I was initially when I saw it. But I really do like this because I did have a lot of issues with the original Yooka-Replaylee, and I did want to see, like, they added a bunch of stuff like patches and things like that, but I don't think it ultimately made things better you know what I mean? Like, it fixed a few issues here and there, but the overall game was still kind of not too, like, I liked a lot of stuff about Yooka-Replaylee, but
right.
I still like the original Banjo-Kazooie a lot more. But if they're taking their first game and they are able to, now that they are free from the shackles of Kickstarter goals and deadlines and things like that, I really want to see what they can do when, like I said, their shackles are off and they can just, it's like, okay, Impossible Lair proved that these guys knew what they were doing, at least on a 2D plane, but now they're like, okay, now I'm hoping with this they can show us, now we can show you what we can do with 3D. Here's what we really wanted to do the entire time, uninhibited, if that's the proper term.
Yeah. So, I said this on our kickoff episode, but Yooka-Replaylee, like you, is a game I really like a lot, and it hits a lot of the things I love about the Rare style of 3D platformer. But there is definitely kind of a death of 1,000 cuts situation. As you said, the compromises that had to be made for the Kickstarter, like promising all this stuff regardless of how it fit within the flow of game design. The team, I think the team, and I think they would say this themselves, and this is no shade meant for these creators who I admire and respect and have followed for most of their careers. I think they might have been a little bit out of their depth coming into this without stretching their muscles a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I think, they had a wealth of experience, but there is just getting something like this off the ground on an independent budget, even buoyed by the Kickstarters and financial investors. I think when the vision is already compromised right out of the gate, it really does give you unexpected challenges. And the XP factor, the feeling that these were just watered down Banjo-Kazooie replacements and concepts, I think as much as that lent itself to becoming at the time like the most successful UK Kickstarter or something of all time at that point, and really created this fervor for it, I think once you got it in your hands, you were just reminded of what we were all really kind of just missing, which is Banjo-Kazooie. And, I said this way back when Mitchell and I did those episodes on Playtonic's developer commentaries, because they were really insightful, those developer commentaries. I still recommend anybody who might have played Yooka-Laylee and been left wondering why certain decisions were made to go back and listen to that, because it is really, it took me back to the days of DVD commentaries, and when, you could get a movie or a TV show and then hear the creator's creative process behind it. And you're like, oh, and it kind of lends itself to a greater appreciation of what they do. And sometimes it's just like, I don't want to disrupt the magic. If something is like this perfect masterpiece, you're like, I'm afraid learning how this was made will kind of ruin the magic for me. But if it was kind of a mixed bag, you're like, okay, I want to know. And I still think Yooka-Laylee is a remarkable achievement, and I said that back then because it is an indie studio's first game. Ignore the pedigree behind the creative talent on there. Ignore, this idea that a bunch of people from Rare are coming in and making a new game. It was still punching above its weight. That's the phrase we like to use because it's true. Banjo-Kazooie had Nintendo financial backing. Everything Rare has done since 1994 has had the financial backing of Nintendo or Microsoft, and Playtonic didn't. So for them to give us something that feels as complete and polished as it does, I think is pretty impressive. Now, the things that people often cite as flaws, sometimes they don't bother me with the original Yooka-Laylee, or don't bother me as much. I see them, I recognize them, but they're ultimately not a deal breaker for me, because I've always felt that the game design 101 philosophy that people hold to, it's more subjective than they make it out to be. I know, probably Mitchell will disagree with me being a game designer, and
Ooh.
It's just like I said, philosophical difference. I think that a lot of people, what they tend to do, armchair game designers, okay? They'll ask themselves, would Miyamoto or Nintendo have done it like this? And if the answer is no, then they say, that's wrong. That's bad. And I disagree with that. I think there are multiple avenues and angles to approach something, which is why Rare endeared themselves so much to me from 1994 onward. Like Donkey Kong Country had a lot of similar beats to the Mario games, but it did its own thing in just a way, and in a way that Nintendo wouldn't have devised, that I was like, whoa, damn, this speaks to me. This speaks to me in a very me way. And it was the same thing with Diddy Kong Racing, with Banjo-Kazooie. Honestly, I'm going to really be stepping in it here. Star Fox Adventures. I recognize it's not as good as Zelda, Malik. But it does things for me that Zelda doesn't, that I appreciate more. Controversial, I know, I'm an idiot. I'm a village idiot, but I don't care. I like Star Fox Adventures.
I am interested to try Star Fox Adventures for myself. As someone who has never really gotten into Zelda, minus a couple of games, I'm still looking at Star Fox Adventures on the shelf, and I'm like, one day, I'll give this a shot. I might like it, I might not, but I want to give it a shot.
give it a shot. That's all it asks of you. Just sitting there saying, Malik, I've been out since 2002. Give me a shot.
Play me, man.
No, it's fine. It's fine. People are like, Hyle, why haven't you played Breath of the Wild? And I'm like, I just, Donkey Kong in it. I don't have time.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. It's like, is DK in it? No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll wait till they add that expansion.
And look, I'm not trying to excuse Yooka-Laylee's very real flaws. I have issues with it, but I find a lot of its flaws interesting and like fascinating in a way that doesn't break it for me. And everybody's going to have a different opinion on this, and that's fine. But what's been brought up since Yooka-Replaylee got announced, and we discussed this when we were talking about it. I think the Idaho crew really went into it on Tuesday night when they've been replaying the original Yooka-Laylee because kind of knew something was coming from Playtonic, and they got in on it early. But
oh, of course.
It's funny that everybody has a different opinion on what the best world in Yooka-Laylee is and what the worst world in Yooka-Laylee is, and nobody can agree on it. And I think that speaks volumes to Yooka-Laylee hitting chords with people that it might not hit with others. For example, Capital Casino. Just look at the diverse range of opinions on Capital Casino. Some people absolutely loathe it. Other people say it's the most innovative, creative game or world in the game. And I think like Yooka-Laylee's unconventional way of going about some of its decisions did work in its favor. It just didn't work universally. But I mean, where do you fall on this? Like, what's your favorite world in Yooka-Laylee?
Let's see. So I remember the first conversation I ever did with you was when we talked about Moody Maze Marsh.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't know whether, like, I remember you talking about it very recently too, where Moody Maze Marsh is kind of all over the place, and my thoughts on Moody Maze Marsh are all over the place, but overall, thinking back, it's been a little while since I last played Yooka-Laylee, but thinking back to my experiences with it, I remember the game really starting to pick up for me when Moody Maze Marsh came around. And yeah, I had problems with that level myself, but that was the one I remember having the most fun with. And Capital Casino was like a close second. I just remember the boss fight on the minecart. That made me want to rip my hair out, and that's when I had hair.
Yeah. I mean, at least we have plenty of hair to rip out when we get frustrated, Malik. It'll grow back, and then, don't have time to get a haircut, so we just get frustrated with video games, which is why I like Yooka-Laylee, because I ripped out my hair a few times. No, it's
nice.
It's funny because my opinion on this has changed a little bit. Like, I liked Moody Maze Marsh when I first played it, and then it just didn't sit well with me. And replaying the game the other year, I realized Moody Maze Marsh is the worst world in the game for me. Worlds that people sometimes cite as their least favorite, like Glitter Glaze Glacier or Capital Casino, I'm like, no, those are actually great. Glitter Glaze Glacier really picked up after the patch, I feel like, because they fixed the snowplow. And the snowplow was just very hard to control before the patch. And then, and that was my biggest issue with it. And Icymetric Palace, I didn't really vibe with, but then...
Yeah, me neither.
Then I eventually, it clicked with me the second time around. I was like, okay, it's a bit weird that they're really, digging into a different type of game in their big 3D platformer revival so early in the game. But, I don't know, I appreciated it. And, it's just funny that everybody disagrees when it comes to this, which maybe says that the criticisms of Yooka-Laylee maybe aren't universal, that it had a lot of good ideas in it, but it was just unrefined, unpolished, and tried to do a little bit too much while not doing enough. You know, so
Yeah.
where the game really like sings, in my opinion, where I have high praise for it, is the controls. I think it controls beautifully, superlative controls. It feels like a modern Banjo-Kazooie game should feel. And when the game does try to be different than Banjo-Kazooie, that's when I feel like it really does work. Like Capital Casino felt pretty different from your typical Banjo-Kazooie world, and that worked for me. Galleon Galaxy was creative and fun. And when it's trying to improve on the tried and true formula, rather than, I liken it to like a band that's been around for decades, and they've only got a handful of original members left, and they're playing the county fair, and they're playing their greatest hits, but it doesn't sound quite right because the lead singer's not there, and it's just kind of tired and sad. That's what Yooka-Laylee feels like at times, and
I like that.
It sounds mean, because I'm not saying like the likes of Chris Sutherland are tired and sad. I'm just, it does feel like it's Banjo. It feels like Banjo-Kazooie, but they're missing some key elements. And I know people will be like, well, they're missing Greg Mayles. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to just put Greg on a pedestal and tear down these other guys, because they're all very talented and creative, and they did bring a lot to the table as well. So, you know, it is just, when they're trying to be Banjo-Kazooie, you're just going to be thinking about Banjo-Kazooie and thinking, I wish I was playing Banjo-Kazooie. And, you know, that's a catch-22 with what they were doing, trying to evoke the nostalgia for Banjo-Kazooie. Well, then you better be just as good as Banjo-Kazooie, and I don't think you can be, especially when nostalgia is working against you and expectations are working against you. But yeah, like, when I like think about Yooka-Laylee, I'm like, what did it do better than Banjo-Kazooie? And I feel like controls, yeah, but that's also kind of a cheap shot, considering Banjo-Kazooie was designed for the N64, and Yooka-Laylee is making the most out of modern control schemes. But Yooka also had the benefit of not being conceived in this piecemeal process that Banjo-Kazooie was, going from Dreamland of Giants to Dream 64 to, you know, the kind of 2.5D game with Banjo, and then Wings of All Dada's Backpack, and then it was Kazoo, and then it was Banjo-Kazooie. So, like, Yooka and Laylee, they felt like they were equals in a way that Banjo and Kazooie sometimes don't. Like, Yooka and Laylee, their moves are more equally distributed between them. One of the criticisms of Banjo-Kazooie is that Kazooie has all of the good moves, and Banjo is just legs, effectively.
And his legs suck, too.
Yeah. but it's weird, because Kazooie has all the good moves, but Banjo is the character everyone associates the series with, and they forget about Kazooie. They call it Banjo. Where's Banjo? Where's the Banjo game?
Banjo is in Smash.
And it's something I've had to consciously overcome in my shorthand talking about this. I always have to catch myself and say Banjo-Kazooie. It's the Banjo-Kazooie series. Banjo and Kazooie. And that was hard, because Banjo, like, I followed Banjo into Banjo-Kazooie from Diddy Kong Racing, so it was easy shorthand for me. I was like, oh, Banjo is in this, and it introduces Kazooie, but Banjo was in Diddy Kong Racing. So,
yeah,
I feel like Yooka and Laylee, there's a lot more give and take between them. And that is even like seen in things like Dr. Puzz's transformations, where they're both represented in the transformation, which I love. I think the transformations in Yooka-Laylee, like visually at least, they're a lot more fun than Banjo-Kazooie's, where it's like, oh, now Banjo's a walrus and he's got shorts and a backpack, but he's a walrus, or he's a bee. And I mean, you know, I'm not slagging on Banjo-Kazooie to prop up Yooka-Laylee, but it is an improvement where you can say, okay, well, now this is a spitting flower, but it's clearly both Yooka and Laylee. That's kind of cool. I really like that design. And, you know, it's just a little thing, but it does mean a lot to those looking at the details.
Yeah, I want them to be fused together and in pain, you know?
Yeah,
They're like, get me out of this transformation.
Yeah, they made the transformations more body horror than just a fun thing, which your mileage may vary there. Like, do we really need to get this, like, all Cronenbergian? Like, do we really want to be thinking about Jeff Goldblum's The Fly? But I don't know, it's funny to me when they become a shoal of fish, a shoal of piranhas, and you know the space ship was like a fun use of the concept of Galleon Galaxy. So yeah, I like all of that stuff. Dr. Puzz is also a fun character. When we talk about XBs, yes, Dr. Puzz is there as Mumbo's replacement, but you're not thinking about Mumbo as much with Dr. Puzz because she's her own thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. I love her.
And I also really like how the tome concept is really fleshed out throughout the game. You know, you got the punny name of Yooka-Replaylee, which is just there to evoke Banjo-Kazooie in a very shameless way. But there's really nothing to do with music, nor should there have been, because, well, then it would just be clearly aping Banjo-Kazooie, or lizarding, chameleoning, and batting Banjo-Kazooie. But Banjo-Kazooie, they had the music notes, and that was kind of it as far as music tie-ins go, because they had jiggies, jigsaw pieces. And then, because Banjo was a bear, they had honeycombs for energy, and because Kazooie was a bird, you had eggs as projectiles and feathers to augment her power. And Yooka-Laylee mostly focused on books. You had the idea of grand tomes serving as the worlds, like book worlds you could jump into. And from there, you had the MacGuffin of the game, the one book, this kind of Infinity Gauntlet reality rewriter. And then you had the main collectible, which were pages torn from the one book. You had quills, which were the progression collectible, a la music notes or bananas, that were used to write the tomes. And then the hapless characters, like Jinjos, who needed rescuing in every world, were the authors of the tomes, the ghost writers. So that all felt so cohesive and unified. And it's just a small, subtle thing, but it really does make the game feel a little bit more fully cooked as far as concept goes. And I appreciate that. And I also think, like, the lore, the world of Yooka-Laylee has a very solid foundation because of that, in a way that Banjo-Kazooie is a little bit more haphazard and kind of all over the place in a very charming way, in a way that didn't really like work against it to its detriment in 1998. But looking back, you're like, you know, had they thought of this all in one sitting, they probably would have reworked some stuff.
Oh, totally. Like, yeah, like I there's nothing I can really add to that, but yeah, I like the tomes and everything. I like what Yooka-Laylee, like, I'm just thinking about the Impossible Lair, and I don't want to spoil anything for the ending, but I remember what Queen Bee Lady said, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to know more about this. I want to know more about this relationship going on with this character and another character.
Queen Phoebe, yeah.
Queen Phoebe, yeah. Should I just spoil it for people who haven't played the Impossible Lair? It's been half a decade.
You know what? It's been half a decade, but not nearly enough people have played Impossible Lair. And I know, like, the Kongversation audience is probably weighted more towards people who have played Impossible Lair, but I really want people to check it out. And there are two big spoilers for both endings of Impossible Lair. And the one ending you might never see because it's if you beat the Impossible Lair in one go right from the get-go. And you're probably just going to YouTube that one. But I don't want to spoil either one. Yeah. I don't want to spoil either one because they're both pretty surprising. And I think they work well with the lore. In the live stream, Andre, I knew this was coming, Andre, said, butterflies have nothing to do with books, 0 out of 10.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Butterflies
sure
are the
think
one.
Of something.
These, like, what are what can a lizard and a bat both eat? Bugs.
You can have like butterfly bookmarks. I've seen those.
Yeah.
I think.
Honestly, I'm surprised they don't have like bookmarks in the game. It's like
checkpoints.
I guess
something?
there's no need for like, well, in Impossible Lair, I'm surprised like the checkpoints, or the checkmates, they weren't like bookmarks, but oh well, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway, like I say all that because of like my mixed opinions on Yooka-Laylee. I really like it, and yet there's like obviously things that hold it back from being just a masterpiece. It's a very good game that you'll run into these snags. You'll run into these moments in the game where it kind of deflates you, and you kind of like, ugh, I have to get through this and I have to get through that. I like it more than Donkey Kong 64. I know that's a controversial opinion. I think it holds together more than DK64.
Interesting. I can understand where that comes from, actually, though.
If Donkey Kong 64 wasn't using the Donkey Kong characters and setting, then I don't know how much I would like revisit or want to revisit DK64. DK64 has a lot of good bits, just like Yooka-Laylee. I feel like the good bits are spread out way more in DK64 than they are in Yooka-Laylee. Yooka-Laylee at least feels like something you can sit down and finish in a reasonable amount of time, where Donkey Kong 64 is a marathon. And it's like running across the North American continent, you know, like.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking like going from like northwestern Canada down to northeastern Florida and then swimming to Puerto Rico. Like it's massive. So having said all of that, it wasn't until Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair and Yooka-Laylee and the Cracklestone, honestly, the graphic novel by DM Cumbo, that's an official tie-in, official piece of expanded universe. It wasn't until then that I actually started to fall in love with the characters and their world. And you kind of got over that mental holdup of, well, they're not Banjo-Kazooie. I want to be playing Banjo-Kazooie. These characters feel a little flat. They don't really work for me in the way I want them to work for me. All of a sudden, we had Impossible Lair and Cracklestone. You know, not simultaneous, but it was just kind of one after the other. And I feel like there was this freshness to the way they were approaching their cast and their world at that point. If not a rethink, then it was more of a clarity of the voice to use and the personalities to have them convey. And all of a sudden, it no longer felt like they were just stand-ins. And it felt like, okay, they're kind of interesting in their own right. This is what I really needed with the first game.
I feel the same way when it comes to playing Impossible Lair. I really didn't feel the whole XP thing of Banjo-Kazooie was kind of gone, because I think partially that has to do with the fact that it was a completely different genre of game, and I think the writing was done by Andy Robinson. Take a drink, everybody. But yeah, it really went a long way to showing that hey, these characters are their own thing, and here's what we can do with them when we are, you know, not doing a 3D platformer a la Banjo-Kazooie. Here's what these guys are as their own characters now.
Yeah, it was Andy Robinson, but I believe Daly came in late in the process and wrote a lot of the descriptions for Tonics.
Ah, yes.
And, yeah. So, yeah. And as you said, it helps that both of those projects, Impossible Lair and the Cracklestone, they weren't just trying to be something else again. Because, yeah, Impossible Lair is very much Donkey Kong Country. It's a game made for Donkey Kong Country fans. But it's also doing other things. It's innovating in ways that Yooka-Laylee never did. It's borrowing from the team's experience making top-down games. As part of Rare's handheld team. It's taking elements that worked in other 2D series like Super Mario World. It's truly innovating in the way it did the augmentations of the levels from the overworld. And you would revisit the levels in a new context. And that's another great use of the Grand Tome conceit. Where you can just like influence the reality of the Grand Tomes from outside of it. And it was just like, oh yeah, I'm really glad you went with Grand Tomes because it's really working for this pseudo sequel. And it allowed me to view Yooka-Laylee and others from a far less harsh or critical perspective. Like, even if that was just a subconsciously harsh and critical perspective before, because I really wanted to like them, but something was holding me back. And now I'm just like, yeah, I like Yooka. I really like Laylee. I like capital B. And it's not just having a quizzical eyebrow towards everything where I'm like, what were they trying to convey here? I don't know. I mean, I like it.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
And so getting excited about Playtonic in 2019 in a way where, you know, I was excited before, but like getting really enthused about it, becoming a fan of the property rather than just a fan of the creators and interested in what they're going to do next. That changed the equation for me. And so, of course, I was really eager to see what their next game was going to be. And the first one they're announcing is Yooka-Replaylee. So why be excited about it? Well, I mean, it's early. Clearly, we've only seen Shipwreck Creek. We haven't seen much in the way of what they're actually going to be adding to it other than some promises and like the new collectible. But I feel like Playtonic has earned the trust after Impossible Lair. There are loads of brilliant people working there now who either joined with Impossible Lair or have joined since then. But the original creatives, I think, also recognize where they went wrong with Yooka-Laylee. That was clear with the developer commentaries. Like, they weren't just defending what were arguably bad decisions. They were like, wish we hadn't done that. I know that was bad, but, you know. And I do question how much of the original Yooka-Laylee can be fixed. But the truth is, if Yooka-Laylee only becomes a 10% better game with Yooka-Replaylee, then I think it'll have been a worthy endeavor, because I still really like the original Yooka-Laylee. If you can just marginally make it better, that's reason enough for me to get excited.
Same here. Yeah, like, let's see. Because we really need to see more, and it's killing me that they keep delaying this stuff. But yeah, after Impossible Lair came out, I was like, man, these guys, yeah, like you said, they have earned our trust. And I mean, I was just blown away from seeing the Replaylee trailer, and I was like, dude, I really think they're really paying attention to what everybody said and to, you know, what they said. And yeah, I really think, is it crazy to think that this is going to be like a substantial remake or something like that? Am I crazy for thinking that?
We'll get into it.
What do you think?
I have thoughts and ideas of what it might entail and hopes. Let's be honest, just hopes. But I don't think it's outside of the box to be thinking like they're not just giving us a fresh coat of paint and like changing the position of a quill or two and selling you a new game. I think there's a reason this is coming. And maybe this will be elaborated more in the Q&A, but I think there's a method to this madness. One of our listeners shared this with me on social media, Frank Inglese, and I thought that was worthy of reading because it kind of sums up what I'm thinking, where I'm at. Said, the more I think about it, relaunching the IP this way with how much time has passed is a very, very smart decision. Plus, the fact that this is one of few projects being developed in-house, I assume, is already reassuring. And that's the thing. I'm not quite sure yet. And like I said, with the Q&A coming in less than 24 hours after this live episode, this might age like unpasteurized cow's milk riddled with bird flu.
Ew.
It's a thing right now.
You really need that bird flu?
Yeah, because there's bird flu in the unpasteurized cow milk right now. People are drinking unpasteurized cow milk, and it's got bird flu in it, and it's like, I'm a vegan, so I don't want to get on my high horse that I don't drink the milk of and say, don't
drink horse's milk now?
No, I'm saying I don't drink the horse's milk. I'm a vegan. But I don't want to criticize people who do dairy. You know, I don't want to be that guy, but also watch out for the bird flu. We don't need another pandemic. I don't need Yooka-Replaylee delayed because nobody could work in the studio because of a pandemic. That's why I don't want there to be another pandemic. I've waited too long for a new DKU game, damn it. Don't drink.
Wouldn't it be chameleon and bat flu instead of bear and bird flu? It would be an XP of the bird flu.
I wasn't saying bear and bird flu. I'm saying bird flu is a real thing where it's happening right now.
I know.
Avian
I'm
flu?
just saying,
okay.
It would be chiropteran flu. We'd get bat flu for Yooka-Replaylee.
I'm just saying, trust Louis Pasteur with your dairy products. If you're going to go that route, for Yooka-Replaylee's sake, people. It doesn't have to be for your own health, for your own benefit. And yes, I'm sure eventually we're going to have lizard, chameleon, and bat flu. That'll be super COVID, where they get the lizard viruses in there. Anyway, really taking me off topic here, Malik. What was I?
You were the one who brought up bird flu.
Yeah, I was saying this comment was going to age like, okay. And watch, the pandemic will like break out next week, and then I'll look like a real horse's ass. Don't want to milk that. So, my thinking, why this project came about, is that we know they're working on multiple games right now, and it's pretty clear one of them is Yooka-Laylee. Call it what you want, but I think you call it Yuka-Tuka if you want, but I think Yooka-Laylee is what we've all just, except Malik, agreed upon. And I think they were developing that. And a lot of lessons being learned. And they were probably thinking, God, I wish we could apply this to the original Yooka-Laylee. And then they got that rush of cash from, I know, I hate it too, Tencent. And
10
they
cents.
thought, yeah, they got way more than 10 cents. That's the joke. But they expanded their studio, and they said, well, you know what? We have time, we have space, and we have money now. Why don't we apply these lessons to the original Yooka-Laylee first? And you can only make a first impression once. But that first impression, while not a bad game, has kind of held Playtonic back since. Yooka-Laylee, for all of its hype, all the expectations, it came out in a very spectacular year for video games. Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, other games, I'm sure, came out that year.
And the rest.
And Yooka-Laylee looked like small potatoes. Small potatoes that were soggy. And
in milk.
In unpasteurized bird flu riddled milk. And they put some horse milk in there too, just for taste.
This is gross.
Yeah. A lot of expectations to be put on an indie game. A lot on its shoulders. But none more so than we want a new Banjo-Kazooie. And you're gonna wave this banner. And look, a lot of this, I love the people of Playtonic. A lot of this was Playtonic's fault. The way they marketed it, the way Andy Robinson, Take a Drink, really aggressively courted the mentality of certain segments of the fandom. and created this tribalistic notion of us versus them, stoking some fires. It probably didn't need stoking and probably didn't help when they didn't necessarily have the product to back up the smack talk. So, it sucked for me because I felt like I was in the middle because very much supportive of modern day Rare, very much supportive of modern day Playtonic. I didn't want to pick a side, and I felt like people were expecting that, and I was like, I want to like both. I'm happy that Playtonic exists. I also want to play Sea of Thieves. This sucks, but Yooka-Laylee came out. It was a misfire for a lot of people. It definitely cultivated a small loyal fan base, but I think the general public checked out because there were way more impressive games that year. And then when they released Impossible Lair, which was 5 stars, masterpiece, like something that came along and was able to rival Tropical Freeze, a big budget Nintendo game. And it was just like, holy hell, this is a game changer. And unfortunately, the general public kind of slept on it because they tried the original Yooka-Laylee and it wasn't what they were looking for. And if I'm honest, I think some people slept on it because they were Banjo fans first and foremost. They did not care about a Donkey Kong Country style throwback when we're still getting Donkey Kong Country games. And that's like, obviously, well, I mean, 5 years after Tropical Freeze and only a year and a half after Tropical Freeze for the Switch. So,
I guess.
Hey, it's good times for the Donkey Kong fandom right now, Malik. I don't know if you saw my story. I don't know if you saw my story yesterday, but
I did. I did.
Donkey Kong is in the top 5 fastest growing video game brands of 2023, along with Super Mario, along with The Last of Us, along with...
How does that happen with no game? But that's insane.
It's everything else. Everything else. It's working for Donkey Kong. He doesn't need a game. He's so powerful. He's just...
We need the game. He doesn't.
People just find that render of his ass and they're like, oh, I'm a Donkey Kong fan now. I didn't know you could do that.
I don't even know how that happened. Yeah. Just has that power.
I'm not even into this kind of thing, and I'm impressed. So, I think like 2D platformers and 3D platformers, they don't necessarily have the same fan base. Like, we here at DK Vine, yes, but there are people who are just in it for Banjo-Kazooie. They don't care about Donkey Kong. It's this weird latter-day Banjo-Kazooie fandom that I run into from time to time where they kind of resent DK Vine being Banjo-Kazooie fans because we also have Donkey Kong. And I'm like, a little game called Diddy Kong Racing, and they're like, shut up, that doesn't count. I'm like, okay. But... So I don't think, like, some of that original Yooka-Laylee fandom, some of those Kickstarter backers wanted to check out Impossible Lair because they just wanted another go at a 3D platformer. And while other people ignored it because they either tried Yooka-Laylee and it wasn't for them, or they heard horror stories about Yooka-Laylee, and so they didn't even bother. Or they thought Impossible Lair was DLC.
That's a weird one.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Well, I think Team 17 did a terrible job of marketing it. It should have been. I'm not a ad guy. I don't know how to like market. I'm terrible at that. I think Yooka-Replaylee is a great name, so don't look at me. But I think Team 17 maybe didn't put the investment behind something as spectacular as that was, like they should have, and it just kind of went under the radar, and it definitely like radicalized a lot of us out there to be like, yeah, hell yeah, Playtonic. What's next? Because I'm like all about you now. You've proved that you can make a masterpiece. And So anyway, I think they set about making a proper sequel to Yooka-Laylee, and then the pandemic happened, and then they suddenly got these investors who will, from here on out through the rest of this episode, remain nameless, and they could expand their studio, and they started to rethink a little bit about what direction to go forward. It's like, if we just do Yooka-Laylee, will it just be met with the same response that Impossible Lair was met with? How do we correct this first impression from several years ago at this point? And maybe they were thinking, well, we've got some good stuff cooking with Yooka-Laylee. What if we go back and we first do a enhanced remaster of Yooka-Laylee and add some of this philosophy to it? I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if you can successfully do that, like layer over quality to something that's already kind of done without substantially rethinking the game. Like, you pull one thread and other threads come undone, right? So,
right.
At the very least, it's fascinating, though, isn't it?
Yeah, like, how many indie games get, especially like indie games that are like spiritual successors of other things, how many of them get remade? Like, that doesn't really happen, does it? Like Mighty Number 9, Bloodstained, I'm thinking of like other games that came out and got announced around the same time as Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't think of many indie games that get full-blown remakes, so that's also kind of crazy.
And like I said, I think with Yooka-Replaylee, they have a unique opportunity to harmonize it with Impossible Lair and Yooka-Laylee. I think they have this goal in mind of kind of elevating their first go-around. I don't think they're happy with it. I think they all recognize its flaws.
Yeah.
And hopefully then get people more excited for Yooka-Laylee. Because the original Yooka-Laylee still has some name recognition. It still has some cultural weight behind it in the fandom of the DKU all the way up to just 3D platformers. And I think rehabilitating the first game makes sense. It's smart. It's not something like I would have necessarily been on board with until it was presented to me and I started thinking about it. And I'm like, well, sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's, everybody wanted to see Yooka-Laylee, and I get that. I wanted to see Yooka-Laylee. I was still hoping after the Yooka-Replaylee trailer that they would then give us a little tease. But one thing that's not asked or talked about often is, what else does Playtonic have in the works besides Yooka-Replaylee and Yooka-Laylee? I know everyone wants it to be a kart racer. Not everyone, but a lot of people want there to be a spiritual successor to Diddy Kong Racing, because talk about underserved markets.
Oh yeah.
Now Gavin Price has said they're done with the philosophy of spiritual successors. Even Impossible Lair tried to get away from that. Even though it was very much rooted in Donkey Kong Country, they were not billing it as, hey, it's Donkey Kong Country 4, kind of. Hey, it's alternate Donkey Kong Country Returns, kind of. I understand why they're walking this tightrope now, because having a spiritual successor is fraught. It comes with those expectations. It comes with inevitable disappointment. If you can take what fans like about those games, though, and apply them to something a little bit new and a little bit different, then that's the way they're going to go. But I know a large part of this fandom wants there to be a Playtonic kart race. I want there to be a Playtonic kart race. I'm going to be honest. Diddy Kong Racing, I have been starving for a Diddy Kong Racing sequel for over a quarter century now. And, I would like it in any form I could get it. So that being said, I don't think it's a kart racer. I think that is too easy. And I think they might want to wait a little bit until they build up more of a heady portfolio of characters. And Like, I could see there definitely being down the line Yooka-Karty or whatever you want to call it. Yooka-Replaylee. But
I was about to say that.
yeah. But I think, like, they're going to want to wait until they have some more in-house IPs, characters. Like, yeah, they could bring in some Playtonic Friends characters, like Beebs, Lil Gator, you know, but I think I would wager that the third game, and I know Gavin has made lots of allusions to Capital B Golf. Capital B Golf might still be coming. Maybe that's a fourth game they're doing, but I think I would be shocked if the new game, the third game, we'll call it the third game, wasn't a new IP entirely. Maybe still set in the world of Yooka-Laylee, like still set in that corner of the universe. However far you want to expand that bubble out. It's just the Playtonic world. Well, the Playtonic world that's also adjacent to the shared Rare universe because of all of the stuff that they sneak in there, or, you know, Donkey Kong, then add Donkey Kong. But I still think it's going to be set in the world of Playtonic, but it's going to be more of a Banjo-Kazooie to Conquer situation rather than, well, we're doing Yooka-Laylee, but it's a first-person shooter, or we're taking Nimbo, and we're giving Nimbo his own game. I don't think it's going to be that, like, cut and dry. I don't know what genre it's going to be. I don't know what it would entail. It's probably, like, not as far along as either Replaylee or Tuca. But that's my hunch, is they have the time now, and they don't have to worry about just how well is this going to perform. So I think, but that's just me really overthinking a situation. It could just be Yooka-Laylee, and I'm an idiot.
Don't sell yourself short, Hyle.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, after Impossible Lair, I just would be happy to have them make the games they want to make. Just so long as they're all set in the same shared universe, because that was a big...
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
Well, it's not necessarily important to quality, but that's the cheeky sell that Chris Sutherland made for the Playtonic brand when we first had him on the Kongversation way back 9 years ago. And it really, like, it's like, oh yeah, like, I know shared universes aren't as in vogue as they were a decade ago. Like, Marvel fatigue set in and people just want standalone, bespoke things. But no, I'm always going to love a shared universe, make it messy and convoluted. And
yep.
You know, they added the unnamed goldfish in Dr. Puzz's bowl, and then we've got the DK rappers, and then Cracklestone. Cracklestone went all out. They implied that Banjo and Conker were just off screen, just off panel, going through the same
No
adventure.
way.
So I love it.
I need to read that, honestly. I'm a bad fan.
No, it's fine. It's you have a lot on your plate, Malik. I would be a bad fan if I hadn't read it, but because I limit myself to the DKU. So
That's true.
You're a Renaissance man. You are.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, you savor many flavors. But I'm headed into Yooka-Replaylee with this kind of fresh or refreshed mindset about Playtonic and the Yooka-Laylee characters. And, you know, I back the original Yooka-Laylee at quite the hefty sum. It's the most I've ever spent on a video game. And that was because I was excited about a Rare-style 3D platformer at a time when it felt like, regardless of what your opinion on Rare is today, we wouldn't be getting that anytime soon. And it's been 9 years since the Kickstarter, and oh yeah, we still haven't gotten anything like that since. So, like, I don't regret, like, really, really getting behind the original Yooka-Laylee. And I liked it quite a bit, but I had no real attachment, no real love for the brand or anything in it other than the promise of what it could be. And then it gave us Impossible Lair, and I was really, really enthused about it. And so I look back on that game, and I think what I was just feeling was dispassion. Like, something was off about that original game. And it kind of borders on Uncanny Valley, if that makes sense. Like, obviously, like, not the character designs or anything, but just like it was ticking all of these boxes for a game I would really, really like, from creators I really, really like. And yet it just wasn't resonating with me. And I think it was the XP factor. I think it was because we all just wanted Banjo-Kazooie, and Yooka-Laylee could not fill those shoes, those turbo trainers. And so, like, I think about Yooka-Laylee now, and how much I really like the brand and the property, and how, like, impressed I am with Playtonic and what they were able to create 5 years ago. And I want that sharpness of Impossible Lair, that cohesion of the world. I want it applied to the original Yooka-Laylee, if they can.
Totally.
If they can take what Yooka-Laylee has grown into since 2017 and make it work in that original setting and context. And I don't know if anything's ever really been done like this. Like, even Super Mario All-Stars, like, they updated the character models a little bit in the older games, but it still very much felt like they weren't, like, going in with everything we knew about Mario's world since Super Mario World, and, you know, like, tweaking the things that feel anachronistic. You know, they didn't really do that, nor was there really any need to, but I'm in love with the world of Yooka-Laylee now, and I'm just as eager for this do-over as Playtonic seems to be. And I think it makes sense to remake something that wasn't 100% perfect. Like, a good but flawed game, to me, is more interesting to remake than a game that got it 100% right, but maybe has slightly outdated graphics.
Like, around the same time, like, there were a lot of Banjo rumors going around because, you know, it's June and no one has anything better to do. And I was getting so sick and tired of it. Like, you know me. Like, I'll be the first one. I see all these people going on. I'm just going to rant about Banjo people right about now.
That's fine. You know what? Like, rant away, because I'm going to sip my beverage and just kick back and hear a good old-fashioned Malik rant.
Okay, this is good because I'm usually the good boy on the Kongversation and in my usual places. But when people start talking about Banjo-Kazooie and what they want out of the game and blah, 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 oh, it just drives me up a wall. And, like, there's so many different... Where do I even begin when talking about this kind of stuff? Because... what was I talking about? Yeah, people go on about Banjo remasters and what they would want to see, and it just drives me crazy because, like, I don't want, like, I know Banjo, the original Banjo, like, I love it to bits. I love the original Banjo-Kazooie to death. But even I will tell you that there are quite a few things in there that, you know, that there could be man, I'm seeing my mind is going at a million places right now, and I don't even know where to start or what to say. But I will say
your brain has Yooka-Laylee world design, quills hidden all over the place.
Yeah, so many things, but a Banjo remaster bores me thinking about them doing that. But when I saw the Yooka-Laylee remaster, I'm thinking, yes, this is something that really does deserve to be remade. And I know Banjo-Kazooie, honestly, there's quite a few things in there that could, like, the original game is not perfect by any means. It's pretty close, like, the sights and sounds are beautiful, but in terms of, like, gameplay, a lot of things about the original Banjo haven't aged very well. Like, I saw a video by a guy who talked about how Banjo's controls have aged somewhat poorly, and he brought up a lot of interesting points where I'm like, you know what? I agree. Walking around with Banjo sucks, and Kazooie is the most optimal way of walking around. And if you can't stand 6 hours of hearing Kazooie go, ha 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 ha, ha, you're going to go absolutely insane. But yeah, Yooka-Replaylee was like, yes, this is something that I actually want to see, because Yooka-Laylee, I thought, had a lot of great things going on, but it was just bogged down by a bunch of different things. But Impossible Lair showed me that these guys can also stand on their own, and I was like, if we can get a Yooka-Replaylee that has like the writing of Impossible Lair and the world building, because Yooka-Laylee originally, the writing in there were maybe a few jokes in there that made me laugh, but a lot of it was just like, surface level stuff like, lol, cars bad, am I right? But Impossible Lair had me laughing from my soul. So if we could get something like that, like so many different things where I was just laughing out loud, for like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy said this or that or this or that, blah, blah, blah. But if we can get a happy marriage between Impossible Lair style writing and Yooka-Laylee, except refined, I think we might be in like heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. I've mentioned quite a bit, mostly in relation to the Banjo, what do they call Banjo Remakey? Wait, like what?
Redoey, I've heard
Redoey,
that one too.
Oh, that's even worse. That just makes me cringe. Like, I love Yooka-Replaylee because of how bad it is, but I have my limits.
Mm-hmm.
Banjo Redoey, ew. One of my biggest gripes about that concept is, like, I always want a new game over a remake. Especially when it's a series that we haven't gotten many entries in, and I don't know when we will, or if we will, and life is short, I'm looking at the sand in my hourglass, and I'm like, shit, I don't want to be a senior citizen and get a new Banjo-Kazooie game. I want to play stuff between now and then, and thinking about it some more, I don't know if there's a contradiction there between my uninterest in a Banjo-Kazooie remake and my enthusiasm for Yooka-Replaylee. Am I just a bald-faced hypocrite? Perhaps. Perhaps I'm just, a mindless shill, and it's very easy to turn me around, but part of the reason I don't want that Banjo-Kazooie remake is, some stuff hasn't aged as well, as others, but I still think Banjo-Kazooie is a lean masterpiece, all killer, no filler. It's one of the best 3D platformers of all time. It's had that XBLA enhanced port, and I just really don't think touching it is worth it, because you're gonna just mess with perfection. Or near perfection. And with Yooka-Laylee, there's plenty you can mess with to make it a better game. And that proposition intrigues me. Because, you finish Yooka-Laylee, you put it down, you're like, okay, well, that was fun in places. It had its flaws in other places. I'll replay it eventually. But you think it's done. You think that's it. And to think maybe we could get a better version down the road, wouldn't have even entered my mind back in 2017. And I don't have the nostalgia I have for Yooka-Laylee that I do for Banjo-Kazooie. So if you start reconfiguring stuff and taking out stuff, I'm not going to be all angsty over it. I'm gonna want to see what they're doing and how it's better. And also, the original Yooka-Laylee is still going to be available, so it's not like this is a George Lucas special edition thing where he's just coming in and saying, I've made these changes to the original Star Wars, and oh, by the way, you can never watch the original Star Wars again.
Lol. Yeah, there's something really ironic about how all of this is going down. A remake is getting me... A remake in the vein of something, you know what I mean? Like a remake in the vein of a nostalgic property has me more excited than them doing something with that actual property.
Yeah, and
that's so weird.
I think the paradox is, I think Impossible Lair really got a lot of people on board with the characters in a way that the original Yooka-Replaylee didn't. And so now we're excited about the first game again. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's feeling like it has a chance of being new and tapping into some of that magic that the pseudo sequel originated. And so it's kind of a doing everything out of order way of really falling head over heels with a franchise. But that's what makes it so unique.
Yeah.
Me Muppet says I do a good George Lucas. Well, I'm glad it just didn't sound like my Bill Clinton.
I wanted to hear that.
Oh, hey, baby, what if I shoot first?
This is very gross.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
This is why I don't do silly voices. This is why I'm usually constrained to my own vocal range. But let's end this episode, Malik, by saying what we want to see in Yooka-Replaylee. What would we like? This is not necessarily what we think we will see. And this might be an unrealistic laundry list of things that we're just setting ourselves up for disappointment for later. But, you know, it's a conversation. A conversation implies robust discussion, back and forth repartee, and Yooka-Replaylee. And I want there to be some proclamations now. Not what we think, but what we want for Yooka-Replaylee. So I'll start. And chime in whenever you want to add something, whenever you want to address something. But the very first thing I would like to see, top of my list, a new control scheme for Kartos. Because I don't like the Kartos sequences in the original Yooka-Replaylee. Like, they grew on me a little bit, but I think it's so unintuitive and so weird to get the hang of. And it kind of feels contrary to the rest of the game. And I don't know if it's because it doesn't control like minecart sequences in any other Rare or Donkey Kong game, or what. But it's just, it's too floaty. I don't know what it is about Kartos, but I hate it. Hate Kartos.
I would like to see maybe them do, thinking about Kartos and Impossible Lair, I would have liked to have seen some side-scrolling Kartos levels in there. Like, why wasn't there something in there for Impossible Lair, but maybe they could do something like that for Replaylee. Just like on one plane. Yeah,
I get it. I get it. Like, they didn't, I think that would have invited the Donkey Kong Country comparisons way too much. Especially when you have contemporary Donkey Kong Country games with minecart sequences. So I kind of understand why they didn't do that, but Kartos as a whole, as I said on a kickoff episode, he just doesn't work because the joke doesn't work. It's like they're trying to force a joke that makes no sense. They're trying to make it like this Cranky Kong kind of almost irony where like, oh, Cranky Kong was complaining about like his style of games being outdated in the original Donkey Kong Country. So we're going to complain about Donkey Kong Country style games being outdated in Yooka-Replaylee, but they're not. They're still around.
Yeah.
There's a roller coaster being built. You know, Kartos fell flat. And I like his character outside of Yooka-Replaylee in both Cracklestone and Impossible Lair. He was fun. And so maybe just rewrite new dialogue for him, but also just change his control scheme.
Please.
I don't want to lose the character of Rextro, because I think Rextro is a very fun character. And I like that they went the opposite direction with Rextro, where instead of being bitter, he's oblivious. and he's so good-natured. He's just a bundle of joy who doesn't care that his style of game is outdated. I like Rextro, but Rextro's games sucked bird flu infected eggs. They were like I've discussed this before. Team 17 not developed in-house by Playtonic, and that's not me trying to slag on Team 17 to defend Playtonic, but they did not integrate well with the game. And they pulled you out of the worlds. They slowed everything to a halt. The more cumbersome ones, you could spend like hours trying to get the hang of it to get 1 pagey or 2 pages. And it just disrupted the flow. I don't want to lose Rextro, but maybe you can rethink how to utilize them. You can even keep those games in Yooka-Replaylee, but keep them confined to Rextro's arcade in the overworld, and not have it be this necessary requirement to beat the game, or even like just not having them be part of the worlds themselves would go a long way. Like maybe even have Rextro in the worlds, but have a new pagey quest in place of those arcade games. That maybe ties into a classic video game style challenge. But as far as the arcade games themselves, like get them out of the main primary game.
It also bummed me out that they didn't look like pixelated arcade games, so maybe they could do something like that too.
It was a weird conceit that felt half-baked, like Team 17 was not communicating with Playtonic or vice versa, where like Yooka-Replaylee were in the arcade games. I'm like, wait, are they going into the arcade games, or did Rextro just create avatars of Yooka-Replaylee in most of these arcade games? What are these?
Yeah.
These don't feel like arcade games. These feel like
this
very
isn't
bad.
Joust.
Yeah, they feel like bad Mario Party minigames. Like those Mario Party minigames where you roll your eyes at if it lands on it, and you're like, oh, not this again.
It's like, oh, just kill me now, people.
Some of them are more fun than others, but when I say fun, I mean tolerable. You could get through them. The one with the hurdles in Capital Casino.
That one was fine. I liked that one. Okay.
No, that one broke me. That one.
Oh wait, no, that was. Wait, wasn't it? Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
maybe it did suck.
And like I said, don't lose Rextro. Don't even lose those games. But just have them in there as more of a bonus thing. Don't interrupt the primary adventure. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Fix some of the more frustrating things in the game, like that one quill that's just randomly in the corner in Tribal Stack Tropics. Kev Bayless's fault. But, like, that kind of thing is fine if it's a really elusive, hidden collectible like the Pirate Treasure. But not the most basic collectible in the game. You're just creating frustration when you hide stuff like that. And you think it's funny, and you think it's, oh, they can't find the one quill. Where could that one quill be? Just no. Like
no.
That I will agree with those who say it's bad game design. I think it's funny, but it's funny in the wrong ways.
Yeah. It's like Chris Seaver did that with a chocolate piece in Bad Fur Day, but doesn't mean you should.
As I think we're both in agreement on, I would tweak some dialogue now that the characters are fleshed out a little bit better than they were in that first game. I would just like, as I said, harmonization with the later properties. And I really like, for example, the character of Laylee now. I think she is fun in a way that just being a Kazooie XP really wasn't. Because she's just like Kazooie. She's mean. She's overly snarky about everything. And now Laylee is presented more as this almost childlike entity that's always on a sugar high and just has a lack of compulsion control. She's just always doing very rash decisions, like no spoilers, but the secret ending in Impossible Lair. it's like I really like Laylee now. And I think some of that was the direction of Daly coming in and kind of helping to develop a voice for Laylee, as well as Andy Robinson maybe getting the hang of it with Impossible Lair a little bit better. So
Daily Laylee.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying now.
I think don't change everything, but maybe give the whole script a little bit of a polish. Give it a once over, if you will, and say maybe this isn't what Yuka would say. Maybe this doesn't really work with how we know Kartos to be nowadays, and also the joke kind of sucks. So yeah, that's what I would do there. I would also maybe think, and some people might disagree with this, but I think it might be neat if they put some call forwards in the game, retroactive call forwards. Maybe hint at Impossible Lair and Cracklestone, and even Tuca. Put some Tuca foreshadowing in there. Give us some stuff to intrigue, titillate, tantalize the senses with what is to come. You know, one of the things I really liked about the classic era of Rare on the N64 is that very thing. Like, there'd be a picture of Barry in Rusty Bucket Bay from then 12 Tales. And you're like, oh my, this is Barry from Conquer, which isn't even out yet. Ooh, this is fun, you know? If they're working on 3 games at the very least, have fun with that. And build up enthusiasm for the games within the games themselves.
I would also like to see, this is something that I don't see a lot of people talk about, but the speed of the dialogue in Yooka-Laylee drove me insane. Like, I liked how in Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, you could hold down the A button and you could still speed through the dialogue and you didn't have to listen to every single syllable going at like a mile a minute. I would like if Yooka-Laylee did that as well.
Yeah. I will say, though, one thing the original Yooka-Laylee nailed was the font. That dialogue font they used, or like, it took them a long time, but it really does feel like a great modern update to the Banjo-Kazooie style.
Yeah, no complaints here.
Yeah, way better than Nuts and Bolts. I don't know what the plan is currently for the pirate treasure. The pirate treasure, of course, they were the hidden, like, crystal skull type things in the 5 worlds of Yooka-Laylee that were Yooka-Laylee's answer to Stop and Swap. We're going to put this, it's kind of late in the day decision they made. We're going to put these collectibles in the game that have no purpose for this game, and it's going to leave fans to speculate, you know, what is it going to be for in the sequel. And of course, pirate treasure, that suggests maybe some tie-in with the Batship Crazy. Well, what's the Batship Crazy? Why is there this shipwreck in the middle of this, like, mountain? A lot of, like, suggestive things going on there that you think might be paid off in the sequel. Well, now we have Yooka-Replaylee. So what is the pirate treasure? How is the pirate treasure going to pay off? One of the concerns about the pirate treasure is, will it still be able to be used in Yooka-Laylee? And at the very least, with Steam, PS5, and Xbox Series XS, I think it will be, because it can read the data of Yooka-Laylee if you have a Yooka-Laylee save on your system or platform. Switch 2, the Switch successor, is still unknown, but it's assuming that it's just going to carry forward the Switch like infrastructure, and like, it's not going to be just a hard reset for Nintendo. So with Yooka-Replaylee, since it's going to be Yooka-Laylee again, but better, maybe just cash in the pirate treasure from the original here in Yooka-Replaylee. Like, this is kind of like, what if we use the Ice Key in Donkey Kong 64 type situation, but I like, would you really just have 2 identical sets of pirate treasure for Yooka-Laylee? Or could you bring the original pirate treasure into Yooka-Replaylee and then have new pirate treasure in Yooka-Replaylee that can then be brought forward in Yooka-Laylee?
I like that idea. I hope they go through with it.
I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I think they've got to do something. Now, the question is, are we going to get a new world in Yooka-Replaylee? If the purpose of Yooka-Replaylee is we're making Yooka-Laylee and we got a lot of good ideas, but we want to kind of fix the first game, what if they can show off a little bit of that? What if they can show off some of those skills they've learned in Yooka-Replaylee by adding an entirely new Grand Tome? I don't know if I would gatekeep it through Pirate Treasure, like, oh, you had to play through the original lesser version of Yooka-Laylee first to unlock this whole world. It kind of runs into the same issues that the original Rare teams had with Stop and Swap, is we don't want to gatekeep really cool stuff. We want them to be more bonus extras. It'll probably just be something in the way of like tonics, right? But I would be curious to see if they could add something new in Yooka-Replaylee that is an entirely unique experience only in Yooka-Replaylee. That could go a long way towards weighting the game quality-wise if there's a really like kick-ass world in there that gets everything right. And then that would be a very, very deft way of showing what they're capable of going forward with the sequel.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I'm just thinking of the word deft, and I thought you said daft.
Daft. No, deft.
It's like, I didn't know.
EFT. Yeah, no. It might be daft, wasting resources and time to put a new world in this enhanced remaster when they could just be saving that for the sequel. Like, I'm sure, like, there's less of an operating budget for Yooka-Replaylee. It's something they stumbled upon and they want to get it done as kind of a appetizer for Yooka-Laylee. But all the same, I would like to see a new world. I'm not going to turn up my nose at it. Like, is it the smartest play? Maybe not, but would I really like it? Yes, I would.
We're all about not smart plays with Yooka-Replaylee. Hello.
Yeah, hello. I think also that would increase the value in a lot of people's eyes. If there was an entirely new world, people would give this more of a shot and be more enthused about it. If it's kind of like Yooka-Laylee 1.5, getting us to the sequel. I don't know. I assume we're going to find out more about Yooka-Replaylee Friday, June 14th. Less than 24 hours after we're doing this, Malik, on Playtonic's YouTube channel. So we will see if this episode ages like horse-encrusted milk riddled with lizard and bat flu. We will see. Me Muppet says that they hope Playtonic hears and has heard these great ideas. I hope they do too. We've got ideas, Malik. We've got good ideas. And you know what?
Yeah, it's not all bird flu talk here. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope Playtonic pasteurizes their milk. I hope they know what they're getting themselves into. Our ideas are their ideas. I'm not going to sue. No. I am an open Grand Tome, and they're free to rip out my pages whenever they please.
Nice.
All right, so we will be back with the live Nintendo Direct conversation whenever Nintendo announces a Nintendo Direct, and we can all just revel in the disappointment of no Donkey Kong announcements then and there, despite Donkey Kong being in the top 5 fastest growing video game brands in 2023. Until then, we'll catch you later. Fuck! Malik, I did it again. I hit the thing. I'm not used to doing live episodes, and my fingers. Okay. No!
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.